Right. Well, it's 10 a.m. at least on my clock here, so we are about to start. Hello and welcome everybody. And today, thank you for joining me at Drupal Camp Asheville, our first online edition. Hope it goes well. Um, I think you can hear me, right? Somebody sums up me in chat that you can hear me all right. Yeah, awesome. Fantastic. So let's get rolling. Today we will be talking about building flexible and dynamic layouts in Drupal and using Layout Builder. But before we start, let's do a little round of introductions. All right, let me turn off my video so that we can maximize on the slides. I think that should go. Wait. Okay, this way. All right. Okay, so about myself, my name is Anna Mykhailova. I'm currently a senior Drupal architect at Kalamuna, Drupal 7 and 8 certified Acquia Grandmaster. Been doing Drupal for about 6 years now. Very passionate about Drupal development and very excited to share the knowledge of this new addition to core Layout Builder and how you can incorporate it into your projects right away. Right? Let's talk a little bit about Kalamuna. I don't think you see the right screen share. Why it's doing this? Strange. Let's maybe stop. Screen share again. Right. It's better. All right. Okay. All right. So Kalamuna is a company that helps clients and community to move their missions further. If you want to connect with me, you can connect with me using this email address or visit our website. And I'm very thankful for the team to help me to present today. And what we will cover, you also see this like strange partials instead of a session, right? Or you see the right screen, because hopping is being weird. Yeah, okay, I'll try again. Right, I'll see if that helps. Yeah, okay. All right, so what we'll cover is Layout Builder, what modules you will need, what is currently in core and what is in contrib space, and how to build your custom layouts, as well as some challenges that you may see with Layout Builder. I don't understand why it keeps messing it up. Let's see if that helps. But okay. I hope it's better. I can see what you see. All right. Let's hope that you see it right. Wonder if it's okay. Right. Let's hope that. Let's see. Okay. All right. Okay. So, what is Layout Builder? Layout Builder is a core module that provides interface to create flexible and dynamic layouts. It gives you this drag and drop interface that we were looking for a long period of time in Drupal. And one of the advantages, it gives you this visual experience of how the page will look like. And allows editors to actually understand what they're building better versus just filling in the form and then seeing the preview. So it gives an enhanced editorial experience of building dynamic and flexible layouts. It allows you to place various types of entities and entity fields and views as blocks. So you can place certain fields of a content node as a block. You can place custom blocks inside it and views. And you can customize the structure of the node output using layout builder. So the result page can look something like you see on the right with the form and the text. It's everything here is built with layout builder using blocks and views. So when you're starting your first project, all you need to do is follow some simple steps to be able to actually get started. First, you need to enable layout builder suite of modules that is currently in core. Then you need to dive into some planning. Believe it or not, layout builder and theming with layout builder and building sites with layout builder on production, you will need to come up with a little bit more elaborate planning than perhaps you would do when you just, building Drupal site and kind of build as you go. Specifically because when you first start building your layout builder project, you may run into situations when you want to enable it for everything because it's so powerful, it's so cool, it's new, it gives you so much flexibility. But then it actually pins you into the corner because it may be very difficult to theme. And the variety that it gives you, it also requires a little bit more effort to theme and make it reusable and make it look good for every single combination. So the danger lies in this variety, and it requires careful planning. I do recommend to build your sites first starting small. So basically utilizing the walk around fly approach, when you basically start small, start with one content type, and then gradually expanding the use of layout builder across your website. And also another decision that you need to make early on is, do you want to customize layout per page or per content type? And there are use cases for all of them that we will cover today in a little bit more details, but that's the questions that you also need to ask yourself. All right. So modules that you will need. You will need only two core modules that are layout builder main module and layout discovery. It allows you to define the layouts in plugins. Layouts are plugins, just like almost everything in Drupal 8 and Drupal 9, and you will be able to define layouts as annotations. And they're very powerful. On top of it, layout builder module itself just reads the layout API and provides a UI. So those two modules depend on each other, and you will need to enable them when you're starting your layout builder project. However, community is amazing, and they came up with a suite of contrib modules. There are way more than what are listed in here. Here I just listed a couple modules that I think are very useful for the majority of my project. So layout builder restriction module is very useful and powerful. It allows you to control not only what blocks can go into certain layouts, but also what layouts are available for this specific content type. So you know that you can define very big amount of layouts, even custom layouts, and some of them are very specific. Let's say your events should have 2-column layouts, maybe a supercard, master column, and maybe like a grid layout. But then your basic page probably would just use 1 column, and then maybe your exhibition content type could use something very custom that is very specific for this content type. It could be overwhelming if you show all of those on every single content type for every editor. So it is way easier for editors to understand the UI when you limit them. So you limit out the layouts that are available for certain content types, and that allows editors to better understand the purpose and intent for that. On top of it, you can also limit the blocks that go into certain layouts, because again, it's challenging to theme for every possible combination. So setting good, healthy restrictions can really help out with establishing a good canvas for well-looking site. So you can, let's say, a list of events can go on the event content type in the section of related events, but you are not intended to place it in the basic page, so you can just restrict it from there. And that makes the UI less overwhelming. Block blacklist module, it's a little module that often overlooked because layout builder restrictions is very powerful. It's so robust that people don't really pay attention for the block blacklist, as they think they don't need it. However, there is a secret for that. This one allows not only hide the blocks from layout builder section, that can also hide the blocks from the site itself. So our favorite blocks that we all, I know, use on every single project powered by Drupal now can be hidden and not clutter the block layout page UI. So you can actually hide the blocks that you never intend to show that are coming through the system. And it also helps to maintain this UI clean and nice. So even if your project is not using Layout Builder, I encourage you to take a look at that module, because it's very nice, little, sweet, and provides a lot of good functionality. The next one is Layout Builder modal. Layout Builder UI out of the box in core is fantastic. It's great. It works so well, except until you actually start using it in production, and then you figure out that little pain in the sidebar where you're supposed to create custom blocks. It's so small that VisiVic is practically unusable. There are a couple modules that solve it in communities. There were some adjustments to make it look better for Claro. There were some adjustments to make it better for Bootstrap. However, Layout Builder modal just solves all of it. And as cheesy as models can be, this one provides a great UI that just puts everything into the module, into the model, and you can drag and drop things in there. You can drag it so it's wider and it's taller, and it's just way better experience, especially if your editors create a lot of custom blocks and use VisiVic a lot. It's just easier for them to see everything better, and they can adjust it as they want. So a little module, do recommend it if you're planning to use a lot of custom blocks. Layout Builder styles, that's another one that I choose in here. There are way more. I encourage you to check Drupal.org documentation for all of the modules, but Layout Builder style specifically, if you're not feeling super comfortable of defining your own custom layouts like in an advanced way, going beyond just basic definitions, I recommend this one because it allows you to add CSS classes to your blocks. And it is very important. The little kind of hidden secret of Layout Builder and using it in production is that we're losing all of our favorite fantastic classes that Classy or any other Drupal theme typically provides. And the consistency of them is lost because now it is placed in Layout Builder. If you ever wonder what's going on with your blocks when you do configuration import and export, and I think we all ran into situations when we import configuration and we get that message of like, that block is broken or missing, and you're like, oh my God, what's happening? And that happens because blocks are actually content and configuration together. There's this gray edge case of entity where they have this content entity, which is a block content. And when we place it in UI, it actually becomes configuration as wrap and config plugin. Now, for Layout Builder, that plugin part is missing. There is a contrib module that allows to return it back, but there is a different use case. In general, they're supposed to stay content entities because technically, when you build your page with Layout Builder, you actually add in a content. So you don't need to worry about exporting, importing configuration when you build in your pages, and editors can just build them on production as normal content pages. But what happens then, they're losing normal block classes. So if you, for example, add a block class through a block class module to your block, you won't be able to add it through a Layout Builder because there is no configuration page where that block class form actually usually is displayed. So it is harder for your simmers to sim because they don't have consistent CSS classes. So that Layout Builder styles modules allows you to actually specify CSS class so that your simmers can sim. But on top of it, when your editors build your pages and you have a consistent styled guide with explained CSS classes, you can actually see how those classes can be reused throughout the site, and editors can expect certain behavior when they use this or that class. That's pretty good. The next one is some site building techniques. So you decided in the planning, you figure it out of what components go where, you installed the modules, you're ready to build. As I said, there are two fundamental questions. First, let's choose what content types are supposed to go on, and choose if layout needs to go per content type or per node. And it's a big decision. So when you decide something for per content type, it's still a use case. It's less common, but it's still a use case. Typically, it works well if you need a custom complicated layout and you don't want to overwrite a template. And on top of it, you expect that layout may change in the future. So for example, you have a complicated exhibition page for the museum, and that it has header, it has some ticket options and body text and maybe related art objects. And you expect that in the future, your supervisor might come in and say, we also want virtual workshops to be somewhere, but you don't really know where. And you want to be able to change it really fast and adapt that layout based on the needs of your organization. However, you don't want to open the power to editors, to distributed content creators, because you think that all of your exhibitions need to look consistently, but you should have UI control over the layout. That's an option when you will enable the layout per content type. And if it is your first ever experience with layout builders, this is what I would encourage you to do. Start with enabling layout per content type. Next, once you feel comfortable with that, you can enable layout per node. What this will do, it will allow editors to override base default layout that you set up for content type on a node per node basis. So you still will set up a base default layout for your exhibition content type. However, now you have a flexibility that if your manager comes in and says, on these specific exhibitions, we also need to put a block of diamond sponsors, editors can make the decision without a developer, provided you gave them this sponsors block that they can fill in, and they can place on layout builder, and they can control where this block goes. So knowing their content, they can make an educated decision in terms of, oh, it will look good in the sidebar because we have just text on there, or sidebar is busy here with images for the exhibition, so I'll put it at the bottom. So now they have full control and flexibility over how the node will look. Now you have different things. As anything in Drupal, you can build different things in a different ways. And there are three, at least what I experience, there are three main ways to interact with layout builders and build your site. And the first, the simplest one, and I do recommend you to start with this when you're just playing out with UI, is building everything with fields. So that if you worked ever with display suite in Drupal, then you know that this looks very, very similar. All it allows you to do is place fields of the same node into different layout regions, layout sections. So every field will become a block, a content block, and it will be exposed in Layout Builder UI, and you will be able to place it, something like that. So you see here, I placed title field and the body field, and then I placed content type field at the bottom. You can add additional sections and blocks. You can modify where each field of a content type goes. Again, very great when you have layouts per node, and you know if you entered an image or you didn't, and do you want 2 columns for this specific node or 1 column. So a lot more flexibility. It's like display suite on steroids, because you actually can modify it per node. However, it doesn't really expand or go beyond that. So it's very tamed way of using Layout Builder, however, very predictable as well. So not a lot of things can go wrong in this scenario. The next technique would be to use blocks and views. This is where you will feel more comfortable or more powerful with Layout Builder, is adding, opening up this node layout for more specific entities and more Drupal possibilities. So you can place a combination of your field blocks, view blocks, and custom blocks within your node. And the great advantage of the blocks specifically, if you create custom blocks of a different type, that you can create as many types as you'd like, it will not define them as plugins, so they will not clutter your block layout page, which is a great advantage. They don't have to be exported and imported through the configuration management. And basically that allows you to do fantastic things with within your node without actually adding more fields to your content type, which is very powerful in my opinion, especially if you have like one-off. So let's say donate now link that may or may not be on this content type. They may not be semantically right to place them into this content type. So that's something to discover. The next one is a view. You can put view blocks into Layout Builder, and another powerful thing, if you enable house tools views, it will allow you some other options. So you will be able to select normal options like amount of items, but you will also be able to specify exposed filters, contextual filters, and things like that. So it's pretty cool. And you kind of embed in views into your pages. So that allows you to create related content, create articles by this author, things like that. But now you actually have the flexibility of where to put it on a page. It doesn't have to go into the theme region. It can go where it makes sense for the specific content. So the result would look something like that. You can see that we have here 2 pages, and they both built with Layout Builder. And the top we have a title block, title field placed in the Layout Builder. Then we have a custom block that was defined in the module that powers the search. Then we have a body field placed as a body block. And then we have a view block over highlights of the collection objects that's also placed in Layout Builder. On the right, you can see that we have just body field placed in. Then in the grid of 3 layout sections, we placed 3 different related articles that were just created through the blocks. So those are 3 custom blocks, and then a supercard block is placed in 1 section. So all the 3 at the bottom, and the 4th one with learn more link is actually 3 custom blocks that were placed as content block entities through the Layout Builder. And let's go into the most powerful thing. So the most powerful technique is building within view modes. What that means is when we were building big production enterprise websites with Layout Builder, Simmers quickly that they actually had enough of Layout Builder and they don't want to work with it anymore because they would sim everything perfectly. The editors go in, add the content, and it looks broken. They sim another situation very good, and then that situation happens again and again and again. And they came to us saying, we need something that will provide some consistency, that we have predictable results and predictable markup and predictable classes. How do we achieve that? So we were thinking about how we could do it in Drupal without overriding templates or injecting classes in pre-process. And the idea came is we can set up everything as view modes. And then we would use blocks, again, using ctools. It allows you to expose view modes for the same content type as blocks in Layout Builder. And that will allow you to actually have predictable markup. And you can have this template set up on your theme, and it will always look the same. And it's very easier to see. So using this concept, we came up with this. So for the object content type on the museum, we define different view modes that we will be using as components or blocks within our pages. And it doesn't actually have to be on object pages only. It can be on landing pages, can be on collection pages. It can be used in views later on as well. But the idea was to go out of a concept of a field and think of everything as a collection of fields or component container. So we came up with those different view modes like teaser and card view, object gallery, information, reference entities, so on and so forth. And you see at the bottom, that's actually a snapshot of Layout Builder where we constructed a page as a collection of view modes. So we have object gallery view mode, then we have a zoom tool custom block, web form custom block, and then we have object information view mode. So it becomes mostly like a puzzle of your content type where you group certain fields together and render them however it makes sense. So then editors don't have to construct your layout of the pages field by field, which could be also very time consuming, but they actually define what block or component or part of the page needs to go into what layout region. So like they can grab a hero, place it at the top, they can put sidebar or references at the sidebar or side region in the grid. And it gives you still the same flexibility, however, it kind of tames the variety. So you don't expose for editors like I render this field with a label and a label at the top. I don't render that field. And that gives you the consistency. You're still controlling the layout pieces, but the pieces that actually build the node and the page itself, they're more flexible. So they're more connected with each other in a way of a bigger chunks versus small field by field layouts. And the result would be this. That's an object page that we gave. And you see that actually top gallery with a little thumbnail, that's actually a gallery view mode. And then you saw that zoom link is going down there in the blocks. And then winter incident and all the information under it, it's actually the object information block of view mode for this object. So we broke down all of the fields on that content type into corresponding view modes that made sense from the design perspective. And then we allow editors to place these different view mode blocks in the layout of the node. All right, so advantages of this approach. Outside of just theming advantages, there are other advantages that are not very obvious right away. So it is fully revisionable. That means that you still working within your node context. So that means that you're actually creating everything through the node form edit interface, and it is normally revisionable. It has content moderation. There are no hiccups, no gotchas there, because everything's still within your content type. It is translatable because all you do is just translate in your node. So Drupal is very nice, multilingual, translatable. When you just do it through the node interface, everything is fantastic. And your layout builder will just render that block. So you don't need to worry about how layout builder will translate things. It's already translated, and Drupal will just render whatever language it will detect for this entity, just using normal multilingual mechanisms. It is easy to sim and reuse, as I already explained, and it gives you predictable markup. And on top of it, you're getting an advantage that if you decide to use this view mode inside your views somewhere else, you can still do it. So at the end of the day, we stopped using fields in views at all. We started using rendered entities everywhere throughout the site, because that allowed us to speed up theming a lot, because we had already these pre-themed pieces, and we were just reusing it throughout the website. So that's all about the site building techniques. Now, once we figured it out how to site build the site, and we are ready to define something custom. So why would we define custom layouts? Layout Builder comes with certain layouts, and they're definitely good for starters. There are a couple of contrib themes as well that allows you to use their layouts. There are Bootstrap layouts. There are some others that you can use and play. I think there was layout library that allowed additional templates. But custom layouts are very powerful. They're easy to define, and you can also have full control over them, which was a huge must-have for our themers, because they want to put classes in there. Especially if you do Bootstrap, for example, yourself, and you do Bootstrap in a very bootstrappy way where you don't write much CSS yourself. You're just trying to utilize Bootstrap components and Bootstrap classes. This is when you would want to have full control over your templates and where the wrappers are rendered and where the classes are placed. So in these situations, you would want to have custom layouts. And they're very easy to create. There is a great documentation page at Drupal.org that goes into details of how to do it. And today we will cover how to do the basic one. We're not going to go into the depths of how to create advanced ones, but I'll talk about what else is possible as well. So you can define it in custom module or theme. If you go in with the basic approach, you can do it right in your theme. If you are planning to do it in a more advanced way, I would recommend to go with a module right away. All you need to do is create a layouts YAML file. In there, you will need to define a default template, available regions for your layout, and create actual template files. So pretty easy, 3 simple steps. You need a module, you need your layouts YAML file, and you need to create template files. So that will look something like that. We have Echidnet layouts module here. We have 2 layouts in here, 1 column and 2 columns. And in the layout markup itself, you will see the label, the path, template, category, regions, and an icon map. So if you worked with Layout Builder or looked at it, you've seen probably on the sidebar, it actually has these little icons. So you don't need to worry about the icons. You don't need to draw them or create an SVG of them. This icon map property is actually taking care of it. It maps it out so that you have correct region in the icon map. All you need to do is make sure your actual region they are placed in the icon map, and then Drupal will take care of it and create an icon for you. This is a very simple way of creating your layouts. You actually can attach libraries to your layout, just like you could attach it to anything. And in general, if you look deeper in under the hood of what's actually happening here, we are using plugin definition, but instead of defining your layout plugin with annotation in PHP, you're defining in a YAML file. So if you want to go in advanced route, you will have to define it as a notation in a PHP code. But here, it's very simple. You have the name of it. You define the template. You define where to find this template. I do recommend create templates directory. You define what's the default region of your layout. And that's pretty much it. Just don't forget to define regions. After your YAML file is done, it's time to move on to templates. So the template, the only gotcha for the template in the very simplest way is to be able to place all of the regions that you defined in your YAML file in a template. So do that or things will not render. So in in our case, we had two regions for our two-column layout. We had first and second. So all of the content, just like on any other entity, will come into the content variable. To render your region, all you need to do is say content.first, content.second to split out your regions. And then you can add any classes or any other attributes you'd like to add. The region attributes property that allows you to actually also render attributes that are specified by contrib modules. So layout builder styles module would add the classes right here, but then you also add classes yourself. So you see how I use add class tweak function, and I have layout region first. Those are custom classes that the themers wanted to add to our custom layout. So there is no gotchas in here. You have to have region attributes rendered into the wrapping div if you want drag and drop interface. So if you omit that, you know how it's similar when you render nodes, and if you forget title prefix, title suffix, you won't have contextual links. So if you drop region attributes, you won't be able to have a drag and drop interface in your custom layout. So always render region attributes. So when would you want to use it? I already explained that it's good when you write something complicated and your themers want full control. If that's not the case, there are also situations when you would want a custom layout. You always can, with what Core provides, create as flexible and almost as complicated layout as you can imagine. However, it is sometimes easier to just define one big complicated layout that is just like one layout versus creating, building a page every time from little sections and placing little layout snippets into the sections. So, for example, what I mean is, let's say we have a home page where we have one column, two columns at the bottom, three columns, and then another two columns, and then another one column. We could definitely build it with what Core comes with, but that means that if I have this landing page template, I'll have to do it every time I create a landing page. So I'll have to repeat it every time, create the sections, and then place the blocks in there, which doesn't really help me as an editor because it doesn't save me time. So if you are planning to add things like that into your landing pages, and all your landing pages will always follow this template, or most of them will, then it makes sense to create that layout as a custom one, so that editors just click once and they have all of the sections pre-laid for them, versus actually doing it all the time manually, so dragging and dropping sections manually. So that's another use case where you would want to do it. And typically another good use case, if you go in full speed with layout builder, so like your site is fully powered by layout builder, that's all you do, then another good use case is actually create a custom layout for your home page, so that you have full control over what's going where. And one of the most important pages on your website is a face of your website, so deserves an extra special care. All right, everything is fantastic. I told you about great things that Layout Builder can do, but Layout Builder is in Core. It can be used on production. We do use it on production. It's stable, but it's still in early days. We're still adopting it. We're still figuring out the best ways to work with it. Maintainers are doing a fantastic job on fixing bugs and bringing new features, but we need to use it with care and caution. And currently, there are some patches that are must-have. Those allow you to avoid certain pitfalls that we ran into when we were working with Layout Builder. And the community continues to work on the patches and on issues as they come up. So I do encourage you, when you're working with the site, to check issue queue periodically to see if there are any issues that outline your use case that you may want to have, because those issues, they are not evident right away. They're evident when editors start working on the site. So when your editor starts working on the site, it's typically a client who does, And that means that the client will be reporting bugs and inconveniences, and sometimes that may lead to content loss. So to avoid that, prepare by evaluating an issue queue and figuring out if you need any certain patches to be applied. All right, well, that's all I wanted to share with you today. It's time for Q&A, so I'll open the chat to see, and I will stop sharing my screen. Oh, actually, I'll just turn on my video. All right. Any questions? Post them in chat. I see one that says, did we ever land on a consistent terminology to differentiate block created through block add versus block created in layout builder? I don't think we did. They all called blocks. The ones that are placed in layout builder do sometimes get called inline blocks, but technically, in reality, those are block content entities. So that's, if you look into Drupal database, it was a gotcha for me too, and aha moment. There is actually, it's called block underscore content, which is a block content entity, just not everybody knows it's there or looked into it there. And another kind of tip or trick in here is, if you have ever been like frustrated, like, why can I load everything? Like, entity type manager get storage, let's say taxonomy term load by term ID, and you can load it, and you cannot do it with blocks. That's because you were trying to load block, which is a plugin and configuration, instead of content, block content. So if you, instead of doing get storage block, you do get storage block content, you will be able to load actual block content entity. So people do call them inline blocks, but like in reality, under the hood, those are block content entities. Did you have experience with layout builder with any contrib theme and libraries like Carousel? Yeah, we did. We built carousels with Sleek slider. It basically has like no difference than if you were to build it with anything else. The easiest way to integrate is probably have a view. In a view, you can place your page or slides, whatever you want to slide, and then you can place that block in layout builder, but then you can attach Sleek slider as a library to the view, either in custom code, or there is view Sleek slider module also that will work within layout builder with no problem. So there is technically no difference. All you need to do is attach your slider library to whatever wrapper and then slide. So yeah, Sleek slider worked really well for us. It's a very easy to instantiate carousel. So I do recommend to either look in the module, or it's very easy to attach yourself as well through the libraries framework in Drupal. Any other question? Is it safe to assume that layouts are inherently responsive? Well, yes and no. Probably it depends on your theme, right, and what's currently set up. So it will inherit the responsiveness of your theme, but there is a lot of work going into the theme, and especially if you define your custom layouts. So your custom layouts, when you render them, after you get out of the layout UI, and actually render them on a page, they will not look like your layout. They will have the markup, but let's say the two columns will not right away look like two columns. You will have to go and theme it and put a flexbox on it or grid on it to actually be responsive and represent the layout you want. Core layouts, I do believe, are right away responsive, unless there is something else on your themes that prevents them from being responsive. I answered the questions. Any other questions? I'm scrolling through the. Okay. What's the name of the module that lets you add classes? Layout builder styles, I believe. For layout builder being used in production, was the training provided to content editors? I'm curious if it is intuitive for people to use. We did provide trainings. We do CMS trainings a couple times when we release sites for production for editors. In terms of is it intuitive or not, we heard different opinions. People who are more like used to CMSs or something like Squarespace, things like that, they find it very intuitive and easy to use and adapt. People who've been working with Drupal for a long period of time find it a little bit confusing, especially if you specify layouts per node. So that extra step that they have to make to actually adjust the layout of specific node after they finish the editorial form, that might get a little bit confusing. And sometimes layout builder doesn't do exactly what you expected it would. And it's not because of layout builder, just like the nature of how you build the page. So we had a couple situations where people find that they would expect certain things and these things were not behaving the same way as they would expect, like views and preview functionality and turning off the preview. Sometimes they can have some differences. In majority of situations, it's something that you need to get used to. So it has a learning curve for sure, and depending on the proficiency of your editors, definitely will drive different results. Any other questions? I don't see any. All right. Well, thank you so much, guys. I really appreciate that you joined me today. It was very exciting. I apologize for the hiccup in the beginning, but I'm really, really thankful for you to come and enjoy the rest of your camp, and I hope to see you at the next sessions.